All right. Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, and I know we've been talking about a lot of stuff, but today I wanted to get back to the buyer broker agreement and our duties and responsibilities to our buyers. So let's go ahead and kick that off. Does everybody? Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and share this real quick, and then we're going to discuss this. So I know there's a lot of concerns going on out there with the buyer broker agreement and all the new regulations that are going on. Bottom line is nothing is, it's still not set. Okay. But if you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing, and if you've been using the buyer broker agreement, then this is going to be a super simple transition. If you've been out there working without buyer broker agreements, at that point, it might be a little more difficult to get used to. So we need to jump into using these buyer brokers if you're not using this. Now, what is the obligation of a buyer's agent, buyer broker, when you have a buyer broker agreement? Anyone want to start us off?
The obligation for the agent?
For the agent, what's your responsibilities? What's your obligations?
The fiduciary with the buyer.
Right. So we got loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, full disclosure, and then the duty to use our skill, care, and diligence. Okay. Without this, I don't understand how so many agents, especially in Florida, working in Maryland, there was no choice, right? We had to have a buyer broker agreement signed. If not, we had to have a non-representation agreement signed. Either way, we had to have it all documented. So when we have that, sorry, we got people coming in. When we have this, it lays it out, right? Your job is to serve that client. Now, I know people get held up on the obedience thing. I'm not saying you need to be beaten up by your clients and all that stuff. However, if you're going to serve your clients, it is up to them to make the offer. All right. We guide them, we educate them, and we provide the resources so that they can make an educated decision. When you help your clients make an educated decision, it is going to be so much smoother of a transaction. And at the end of the day, you're leaving the power in their hands. All right. Has anybody ever bought anything and felt that they might have been misled or taken advantage of by the salesperson? Yeah, it happens, right? We get caught up in the moment. We make those impulse buys. Real estate is not like that. This is real property, and it has real consequences. It does create, a higher level of, equity, and it's a great investment source for most of us. However, most of you guys know my story. The first house I bought did not go well. All right. I was unrepresented. I didn't have a lot of guidance, and it went horribly wrong. All right. We want to make sure that we are there to guide them through the path. Okay. Now, if you don't want to hold up your hands, that's fine. But anybody currently using the buyer agreement? All right. Everybody on our team should be holding your hand up. It's automatically filled into your contract. All right. So it is super important. Does anybody have any questions on the buyer broker agreement? Okay. So let's talk about what it actually means. All right. This here was brought up as a single property buyer broker agreement. It's an easier way to get people to sign, especially when you're dealing with a newer client. Maybe they're not ready to commit to a full-on buyer broker for going out and being committed to you for every property out there. But this one here is going to allow us to show a single property and protect ourselves. Because even though we want to serve our clients, it is our job, or it's in our best interest to protect ourselves. So super simple, right? single buyer broker agreement. First line, right? We're going to fill it in. What's the property? It's 123 Main Street, Vero Beach, Florida. All right. And then the agency, it describes it, right? The agency relationship between broker and buyer determines how broker will work on the buyer tenant's behalf. The agency relationship is disclosed and documented in a separate disclosure. Okay. Now, it just said tenant. Can we represent tenants?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of you are in areas where the tenant or the on the buying side, they may only offer $50 to bring a tenant. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel like going out there for $50. I'm going to lose money if I'm driving around showing a bunch of houses and all I make is $50. So this here is where we protect our income. Okay. It's okay to protect yourself when you're out there. Okay. But this needs to be done prior to, it should be done prior to showing the house, but definitely needs to be done prior to submitting an offer. Okay. So the length of the agreement. This agreement shall begin on the date last signed by the broker and buyer tenant, will automatically end on what is your date you're going to end it on. If you're doing a one-time deal, maybe you want to just set it for a couple days or a week. Okay. But if we're going to start showing properties, this is where we need the regular buyer broker where it's going to extend it. Typically, I do my buyer broker agreements for 6 months, just like I would any other contract. Now, if I have a commercial client, I'm going to do it for a year, right? Because why? And I let my clients know that they can cancel this, right? But this protects me, right? Has anybody ever gotten ready to go on vacation or been on vacation and they get that frantic phone call from a client that says, I absolutely have to write a contract this weekend? Yeah, Martha, is that a pain or what?
It's a pain, especially if they're on vacation too. I've had that happen twice.
Yeah, I mean, and we do what we have to do, but it's nice to know when we have that relationship with our clients that we are protected. Okay. Now, for those of you on the team, it's super simple because as long as you're letting us know where what's going on, you have people to back you up, right? But there's nothing like working on somebody for 3, 4, 6 months, a year. We have one that we're getting ready to do. He's been we have one that's been in the system for 11 years, just came back to life, but one that I've actually been nurturing on a regular basis for the past 3 years. All right. Now, he didn't buy, not because he's a shady buyer. We started to look at houses and then he had a medical issue. So it took him out of the running, right? But with him, he's been very honest. He wants to buy and he will get back to buying. And he's $1 million plus client, right? So I definitely don't want to drop the ball on that. I have a buyer broker agreement signed with him, and we will go ahead and re-up it every 6 to 12 months. With him, we actually did it for 12 months to protect me since I knew he was going to be kind of sick for a while. Okay, does that make sense? So the fee, all right. This is where we get into the where a lot of the confusion is coming in now. Buyer tenant agrees to pay the broker fee as provided below. Okay. This has always been the case, folks. Okay. It has always been the case. So all this stuff and everybody running around getting all crazy out there, it's silly. Okay. Because the buyer always had to provide this. All right. Some of you guys might have signed it as a transaction broker. Some of you might have filled it out as a buyer broker, but this always needed to be in place, right? And we know that the laws of supply and demand, right? A lot of our buyers, especially in our market today, don't have the money for the down payment and also for the commission. All right. So this is going to be critical. supply and demand. If we take away those buyers that don't have the money to pay a commission to a buyer's agent, one, they're going into a situation unrepresented, which is not good, right? And two, and 70% of the people out there use buyer brokers. So if those 70% of the people start to look at only properties that are offering compensation, what does that do for your seller's property that decided that, well, I heard about this lawsuit and I'm not going to pay any commission? Anyone? Lauren, what is it going to
There's
do?
a number of people who are trying to actually bring the buyers to a house.
I'm sorry?
Who will bring the buyer if you will not pay? The agent with the buyer will not bring the buyer there.
Yeah, but what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the price of the house if they don't go to those houses?
Drop down, because
Absolutely.
they will have limited choices from the people who actually probably will seek in themselves, trying not to, whatever, because no realtor will work with somebody with no payment, so it's limited choice and price drop.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, we have to be careful. We can't discriminate if they're offering commission, technically we're supposed to show it. But if they're offering no commission, we don't have to work for free and we won't get in trouble for it. We're saying, I'm sorry, and there's going to be something they have to sign. I can't show you that house. They're not offering compensation.
Well, at 100%. And this is where, the negotiation and securing our jobs comes in. Now, I think in 6 months, we're all going to laugh about this. Okay. And it'll all wash out and it'll be just as clear as it is today. But or it was 6 months ago. Okay. Right now, it's just a little bit, people are getting a little bit nervous out there. But at the end of the day, this is not a nonprofit. We are not a charity, and we do not have to work for free. Okay. So by doing this, broker fee is not set by law and is fully negotiable. Yeah, it's negotiable. Okay. However, if I'm willing to give up my money, how fast do you think I'm going to give up your money? Right? As the buyer's agent, there's a lot that goes into it, and we're not going to have enough time to go through it tonight. But you guys have all seen the sheet of all the duties and the things that buyer's agents are doing. All right. Now you're going to get, at some point, you're going to get the buyer that's going to show up and they're going to say, hey, I like that property. And you're going to do very well on it because you're going to show one house, you're going to write one offer, and you get it under contract. But that is not the norm. All right. Martha.
Yes.
How many properties have you shown that the one VA buyer that you're working with right now?
I think we're at 8 to 10.
Okay. And have you found anything that he likes yet, or that he can qualify for?
No.
No. It's a very difficult situation, and it's not necessarily that he's being difficult. It's that he's in a tough price point, right? So while we do occasionally have those that are nice and easy, the bulk of our job is really knowing, it's knowing the market, knowing what's going on, and making sure we're getting our clients out there. So it's going to be a lot more difficult than just, oh, look, there's a house, let's buy it. Make sense? So for some of you, you haven't dealt with it yet, but you're going to have clients that they come on the hook. They look for a couple months and then they disappear. Maybe they work, maybe they don't, but you will work for the money. Now, the more seasoned you get, and the reason why we do these classes is I want you to have the ammunition so that when somebody asks you a question or you're in a situation, you're not blindsided with something you're not aware of. That's why you have myself, you have Shari, we have Tanya. What's up there, Shari?
Now, and the other cool thing is, especially for the newer agents learning about the buyer broker, just remember, guys, by August 17th, every single agent on the planet has to have this buyer broker agreement signed. If your customer will not sign it, you cannot take him out. That's just it. And then he can go to another agent who's going to make them, also sign it. So it's going to be very easy to go ahead and get these signed. You can't take them out unless they sign it. That's it. Period. End. So
100%. And this is so critical. This is, this lays out what your responsibilities are. Okay. So, make sure that we're paying attention to this. Every one of you has received a copy of this. So let's make sure that you guys are reading this fully and fully understanding. The broker
and Chris, what are you saying? Just one more thing to point out. What are you saying? You're going over this so thoroughly. Is this not like a listing agreement? When we say list the buyer now.
Yeah,
you don't,
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going over this with my buyers, right?
That's right. It's just like listing. It's called listing a buyer.
It's the same thing. When I'm going through my buyers, I want to make sure, and I've done enough of these, that I have found that it is in your best interest to go through the whole thing, the contract, the listing agreement, whatever it is that that you're, whoever it is that you're representing, you want to go through this paperwork. You are going to answer these questions either now or later. However, if you answer them now, we sit down like we are either now on a Zoom call or preferably face-to-face where I can actually have that conversation with the client. I can go over it now, or I can get the emergency phone calls when all of a sudden somebody gets something and they're not sure and it wasn't explained to them. And now all of a sudden they see something on a settlement statement, or they see something else that's crazy that is, all of a sudden causing them concerns. So answer it now, answer it later, but you're going to answer it. So take the time, make sure your clients are informed. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? And we've already discussed that the supply and demand, you're going to see this put on the MLSs, or not on the MLSs, onto the contracts, to get the buyers, the sellers to pay for this. All right. Now, I know a couple of agents that have always charged, no matter what the MLS fee is, they've always charged their, X amount of dollars, whatever the MLS is, their buyers make up the difference. Okay. And you'll have to decide that, and there may become some, negotiating in there, how much you're willing to take. But I guarantee you, if you're running around 6, 8, 10, 25, 30 properties, you're not going to be wanting to cut down this commission other than maybe just to end the pain. Make sense? So get this filled out. Broker fee shall be due and payable upon successful closing or lease signing as applicable. Broker will request to have the broker fee paid by the seller of the property for including the broker fee as part of any other of any offer, if requested by buyer. Any offer of communication of the broker fee that exceeds that amount indicated below will be used for the benefit of the buyer at the buyer's discretion. Okay. So what does that mean? I fill this out. I decide that I like the person. All right. I want to do it for 1.5% because I think it's going to be super simple. And the listing agent says, well, we were prepared to pay 3%. The other part, you cannot collect the extra 1.5%.
They just changed it a day ago, last week.
Okay.
Now that's why this is just ever evolving. And then we just discussed it at the in-person today. You are now allowed to, they told us over and over, we couldn't go up, we could only go down. You can modify the agreement if you find out the seller's willing to credit you more. So if you signed it for 2.5%, or like Chris said, 1.5%, and you find out that the seller's willing to offer 3% concessions for your for the buyer's obligation with the buyer's broker to pay your commission, you can change it to the 3 now and get it.
Okay, so that's an update, and that leads to my point that
Yep. It's all going to be the same, right?
well, yeah, but the thing about it is, if you wait until this all changes, then you're learning it all from the beginning. Start getting acquainted with this stuff now. This is a very simple thing. Obviously, that's an update that if it came out yesterday, I was involved in other things, so I was not checking my updates from yesterday.
Oh,
That's
in my class today, the brokers right behind me said that's not true. Like I didn't know either. I thought they harped on that and they're like, nope, that changed.
yeah.
So yeah.
So this is fluid. So it is very very important that we stay up on this, and we will continue to do updates. And that's why the regular buyer broker, I don't even want to bring it up right now, to go over, because it's going to be changing here shortly anyway. Okay. But you have it in your app files, you have it in your documents. So use these things. These are the things that protect you. Make sense? Okay. And then of course we have the percentage or the exactly. I don't like the exactly. Right. I'm not going to do it, put in exactly $500, exactly $1,000, whatever it is. I'm working off the percentages, because if I'm working on percentages, right, it's going to be, a little bit, better on me. But also too, if the price goes down, it benefits your buyer. It benefits the seller. Right. So, if you do things for the right reason, it's going to pay off. Make sense? And then, for the best experience, buyer and tenant is encouraged to work exclusively with a broker concerning the purchase or leasing of the property, to be accompanied by a broker on the first visit to the property, and to conduct all negotiations for the property in good faith and exclusively through the broker. All right. You do not want your clients, right? We've had it before. They try and do their own work. They go to the neighbors, knock on the neighbors. What do you think I should offer that for the house? Well, I don't know. He was a drug dealer. Well, no, he wasn't. They just didn't like each other. Right? We just had that. Right? So it's in your best interest to let your clients know. This is where the communication comes in, folks. Right? The communication is huge. Right? You have to communicate this with your buyers. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on that?
I'm working with a renter and forgot to send this to her, and I should have learned my lesson the first time when I didn't send it that time either. So now I'm
Okay.
feeling pretty crappy.
Okay. Well, we got to get it done. So let's review that file and get it amended. Shari can touch base with you, make sure we get everything straight.
Yep. Lauren, talk to me. We'll talk tomorrow and fix it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. And folks, mistakes do happen, right? They happen. So it's not the end of the world, but we have to be willing to accept, the consequences when we do have that. So, I was talking with Shari about it. I've paid for things that maybe I overlooked. I bought a fridge that I really did not want and did not need and did not get a chance to enjoy. All right. Because I messed up on a part number when we were ordering it. So it is what it is. Martha, what you got?
When going back to the fees, when you're talking about percentage, is that like the commission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where your commission's going to go in. So what are you charging to your clients?
Okay.
Do you get that and the split that they said? Like if you get the 30% on the rental, do you get both?
Yeah,
Or
that's where this is covering. This is what's allowing you to collect that fee. All right, this has always been the case on the buyer broker. The buyer broker agreement allows us to collect that fee from the listing agent. It's just changing how the money's changing hands now. But this is what allows us to take that payment that's on the MLS right now.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, additional terms. This is where you're going to put in your additional terms. Typically, this is where I will write in what my terms are for a cancellation policy to give them a warm, fuzzy feeling. Hey, listen, if I don't do my job, we don't get along, you can terminate this contract. Typically, I give them 24 hours. It terminates within 24 hours of written notification by either party. However, for this property, it will last for 180 days. And why would I do that?
To protect yourself when the guy goes back and gets that piece of property.
100%. Yeah, you don't want them. They all of a sudden they meet in the grocery store or out in the front yard. They come up with a plan. Your buyer fires you, seller fires their guy, and they decide to cut everybody out of the deal. All right, that's why we have these contracts. All right, and on that note, all right, these things are approved. So do not make changes to the text that's already filled in. All right. I don't like this line here or the line 4 fee. So I'm going to cross out this paragraph and I'm just going to write simply, buyer will pay me 100% of the transaction. Right. Not going to work, not going to fly. And there's all sorts of, it's just all sorts of stuff that can happen from there. Does that make sense? Okay. So, very simple, buyer 1, buyer 2, all right, and then broker. Obviously, you're going to sign this, and put all the information in. Yes, they are written for just 2 buyers. If you have more, either one, if you have enough room, you can have them fill it in. If there's that many buyers, which we have had buyers, and sellers where there's as many as 6 or 8 on one contract, in that case, you would use a separate addendum. Make sense? Now, who has buyers that they're currently working with? Okay, Jennifer, Martha, Lauren, Samson. Yeah, Samson's coming out of the gate strong there, folks. All right, he just joined us. What's it been? 3 days there, Samson?
Yeah, it's been about a week.
Okay, well, 3, yeah, since you got your system set up. So about a week, 3 days in, and Samson's you're writing up a contract, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
That's
I like
awesome.
it. And you got a couple more coming as well. So, keep up the good work.
Where are you located, Samson?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, cool.
Referrals, especially you guys, back and forth. There's a lot of northerners to give him referrals, and he's got plenty of backup.
100%. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about having the large geographic area. It's good. We can, easily move things back and forth, and we're getting a more and more of a coverage area. So, but this is why, guys, this is why we do the training contracts, the samples, to make sure that we're well versed. Right? We do not want to practice this when the game is on the line. Okay, practice in front of a client, and all of us, that's when that's how you get paid. All right. So for anybody, if you haven't done any sample contracts, please get them done. All right. You guys all have the videos. You all have everything you need to do. We need to be making sure, some of you guys are writing, out there, with real clients. So that suffices. But if you're not doing them, we have to stay on top of our game.
And just a little public service announcement: the first Zoom will be tomorrow of the team at 10:30 in the morning. And if anybody has specific questions, screen sharing, whatever you need, that's definitely the time to ask too.
And just refresh my memory. What's the 10:30?
The Zoom with all of us, with everybody that I'm helping. It'll be tomorrow morning at 10:30. So everyone's going to hop on. We get to know where each other, the best thing about them is everyone's going to get to know where each other's located. I promise you, it'll help with referrals. And then we're going to do some demonstrations and show how to go through the things just in case anybody, is having trouble getting started. And for those of you who have already gotten started and have deeper questions, that's the place, because everybody has your question, I promise.
Yeah, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if you don't know the answer to a question. I've been doing this for a long time, sold a lot of houses, and I still have to, keep up on stuff and ask questions. That's what this is all about.
I call you for questions sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what about this? Because everything's new. Every day it's something new.
And we bounce things back and forth. I got a call from an agent that has been in the business for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, had questions about the VA loans, right? I just do more VA loans than him. Okay. So he wasn't familiar with them. He's in a cash heavy area, and that's a beautiful problem to have. But the beautiful thing about it is having the resources, having the people to turn to is what this is all about, right? This is why we do these. This is why we do, our team meetings to discuss, clients, individually, what's going to take to get them off the fence, right? A lot of people, if you guys are paying attention, the traffic is starting to pick up, right? Buyers are coming back into play, and they're starting to really get out there. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure we're following up and getting in front of everybody, and we need to know how to present this stuff. Anybody have?
Oh, there
What's
he
that?
is. I thought you just there you are. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Good afternoon, everybody. So this is Guy. I haven't been around for a long time as well. And my apologies for being a few minutes late. I have a question that I would like to ask you. I'm in New York, Brooklyn, New York. Just got my license here, and I'm waiting for them to send me the license. So happen now that I'm licensed in both Florida and New York. So I'm also a loan originator. I'm with Middlebrook Financial Bankers in Long Island. And I do loans in Florida as well. So if you guys want to work with me, you'll be more than welcome. But Chris, I do have a question for you. I have a buyer that I'm working with in New York. She's in Orange County. But since my license in New York is not up yet, because I'm still on the Florida roster, I guess I called the office. They told me that I cannot be put on a referral now, because if I do, they're gonna charge me a fee. So I have to wait until my New York license pop up, so I can be New York primary and referral Florida. So, but now that I have this client that I'm working with, I already have her pre-qualify for a mortgage. And now I would like to also get the referral agent in New York, in Orange County, New York. How would I approach that as far as the referral is concerned, so I can get the 25% referral fee?
Well, I mean, one, you already have a license in Florida, so you can run the referral through your Florida license and refer it that way. You'll go into Workplace, and you'll check out the local agents that are in through Workplace. So you have your New York. Where in New York are you?
Brooklyn.
I have an amazing agent in Brooklyn. If you want to message me after the fact, I will introduce you to her. She's phenomenal, and she'll knock it out the park for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
Will do.
a real good friend of mine, and she's done a lot of business for me.
Sounds good. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just text me after this. I'll send you her contact card.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, folks, if you're licensed, it doesn't, for referral purposes, it does not matter where you're licensed. And the beautiful thing is, and I think it was actually Sherry that told me this, is because I missed the update. We now have, just like we have for the internal referrals within the country, We now have the international one. So just as simple as the internal referrals, you just go right into the system, send it right over, and it's a nice, easy transaction. So, and that's wherever we have agents. Okay. But I like referrals, folks. We have we just got a couple of checks off of referrals that came in. I have one that's coming at the end of the month that will make it for a very nice month, just off of a referral that happened up in New Jersey. All right. But that's where all this stuff comes in, right? Everybody has to do their part, right? When I screen people, I don't just look for the closest agent and, oh, look, Mike Smith is over there and he happens to be in the area. I'm going to screen that agent, right? And I'm going to call the agent and I'm going to make sure that they have the knowledge of what needs to get done. Just as you guys should expect. If you get a call from an agent from another area, why should they go with you over another agent in the area? Right? Getting all this stuff done is imperative.
What
Right?
do you get for a referral?
What's that?
What do you get for a referral? What's like a percentage?
I mean, it's that's all. Again, it's all negotiable. When I send a referral to somebody, I do 25%. I see people asking for a lot of different numbers, and that's all on them.
So Chris and I do 25%. I do 25%, but when agents the other way around, when they give referrals, usually they ask for 30. So if you guys, you can run it by us to see what we think, but it's anywhere from 25 to 30. But if I give you a referral, we work it out. It's just 25%.
25% of what though? Because I know it's not the total.
Of the commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you send a referral and to another state, another country, whatever it is, and the final commission turns out to be $10,000, $2,500 of that is coming to you if you do 25%.
Okay, got it.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And they're fun both ways, because to give it, you don't, you just give it to someone that answers the phone. That's always my first test. And then you all of a sudden, you check up, but all of a sudden a month later you get a check for 2,500, like Chris said. And then to get it, you didn't spend any money to get it. You didn't advertise, you didn't market, you didn't cold call. Someone just calls you up and says, "Hey, Lauren, I heard you were awesome. And, I have somebody from New York or whatever that's moving to Florida. They pick you, and I'm more than happy to give a referral fee because it didn't cost me anything." Right. So, and then you establish a relationship and hopefully you can go back and forth with that person. And also, people ask us all the time, who do we have, here, who do we have there? And if it's a successful transaction, I'll tell you, it'll be repeat business when that happens.
100%. And also, too, when they're coming, it makes it for a smoother transaction because you already have that extra level of rapport already built in because it's referred from somebody that's trusted.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
17% of my business comes each year from referrals. From agent referrals, not from my referral network, but from agent referrals, sending in or out. And that's a beautiful thing when you can start to quantify it, and that by sending this stuff out or taking it in, it's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to just be with inside the company. The agreement can be made with any realtor in any company across the board. So as you build your careers, you will start to develop relationships, hopefully, in multiple different areas. Guy was coming down here. We met when he was coming to Florida. Reasons why he decided to go back to New York. That's fine. Now we got somebody an additional person up in New York, right? And he's got a bunch of people down here in Florida, right? And we all know everybody wants to leave New York and come on down to Florida, right? So, Guy, me and you are going to be besties.
That's it. It's good to have an extension. They got a bird's eye view.
Absolutely. But does that make sense? But it also helps because now, once I have this, I can set all my expectations. I got my buyer broker, I have my contract. You know, it makes life so much easier when you know what you're dealing with. I've talked about it. I do my contracts the same way, the same, every time. I don't ever have to worry about, did I give them this? Did I go over that? Did I do whatever? It's one less thing I have to worry about because I know that every time I present these, I'm presenting one of these as well, or a buyer broker, a regular one, either or. Does that make sense? And then we keep it in our app files, so it's there. And we actually, in the past month, we have received phone calls from at least, I want to say 3. It might have been 4, but I know 3 that I can think of off the top of my head from past clients from years ago that called me up looking for maybe a plot. One was the plot map. One was another certification, and then there was another one, right? Because I kept my files in order. It's in my computer. I looked it up. I make them searchable. All I have to do is pull the file up, and there we were. Right? Took me all of 2 minutes. But if I don't make them searchable, if I don't follow the procedures on how to label them and catalog them, and I don't, keep this stuff, then it's gone. And then I go scrambling, and I lost an opportunity to help out one of my past clients who I know buys houses with me. Make sense? Any other questions? Who thinks that it's going to be difficult to employ this into their business? Okay. It should not be, right? We don't go to the doctor and, ask him to, do it without getting paid. We don't go to the auto mechanic and ask him not to charge us for the wheel alignment or the oil change, right? You don't get your hair cut and ask him to, to reduce the price because he's charging too much, right? It doesn't happen. So why would you race to the bottom and cut your commissions and not get paid? Right. I don't, that's one thing about this industry. I say it all the time. We are our own worst enemies. Be a professional, get the document signed. Everybody that's looking for houses know that there's paperwork that's going to be signed. And if they don't sign this, 99% of the time, they weren't really a buyer. Okay. Because I can tell you, one of the things that I see, especially early on in a lot of careers, is everybody, they have a buyer and the person doesn't want to do a pre-approval or something that they have to get done, and they'll still work with them because the chance that they're going to buy still supersedes the fact that if they don't have them, then they don't have another, they may not have another client. But if that person is not willing to or able to get a pre-approval or sign this agreement or do the other paperwork or what's needed of them, 1, it's going to be painful, but 2, it's keeping you from a real buyer. Okay. I've had buyers hand me, literally $100,000 blank check and said, hey, keep this on file until we find the right house. This is my EMD money. Now, would I normally do that? No. Right? Because I don't want a blank check for anybody for $100,000. But this particular case, I kept it in a safe until he was ready to go. Turns out it was later that afternoon. Okay, that was a real buyer. Right? The real buyers want to work with you and are more than happy to pay these fees. Okay. You're always going to have the people that want to do the FISBOs and the, whatever it is, and they will take less money because they think they're smarter than everybody. Okay. I know my value, as you guys should all know your value. Right. And every one of you here has a lifeline. What's up, Sherry?
Just a little aside to that, there are a lot of professionals out there that get new agents. And guys, if anyone contacts you, first starts texting you and then says, let's switch over to WhatsApp, and sends you a Bank of America bank statement and says, oh, I want these houses. Talk to Chris or I or Lisa or anyone about them, and then ask them for a Zoom. I always say, I'm sorry to be, say this mean to you, but why would a $1 million buyer reach out to you that this is your first deal or your first year in real estate and they don't know who you are? They don't know a realtor and we vet them. I don't tell you to fire them right away. But just like Chris said, if anyone's refusing to sign things or they keep rearranging the Zoom meeting, it starts to get fishy. So we won't, like I said, we won't let you lose out, I promise, but we'll take it one step further each time to see how far, they're willing to go. I've had people with, like I said, full bank accounts. It looks legit to me. And, they respond quickly and all this. And then when I say, okay, let's set up a Zoom, because I don't want to work, between me and you all, I don't want to work for free. All of a sudden they can't meet by Zoom and they cancel appointments and all this stuff. So just be careful with that. Anytime anybody's resistant to doing anything that's a normal process, most likely it won't end up well.
100%. Okay. So, yeah. So bottom line is, folks, protect yourselves, know your value, and you guys will do extremely well. Everyone here has the ability to grow and lead a very successful career. Okay. They put out a study a while ago, and we've talked about this, that most of the agents in the industry, I think it's over 90%, have less than 5 years experience. All right. So even if you're new, you're not that far behind, everybody else. Sound good? I know we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Anybody have any random questions they want to throw out there?
I have a question.
All right.
I have a buyer that is interested in doing like investment properties and Airbnbs. How do I start researching that? I did go on Air Data, which is like an Airbnb data app.
Yeah. So, I mean, so what is their, whenever I have an investor, I want to know their true intentions, right? Because we get a lot of people that are saying that they're investors and they're looking for investment properties, and they can't really ever dial in on what they're looking for. So when I have an investor, I want to have a sit down with them, whether it's on a Zoom or in person, and really dial into what is the outcome. Because typically the investors are more in tune with the outcome than the property themselves. All right. If you have that investor that is, wants, real pretty properties or wants, something, they're not really typically a real investor. A real investor is looking for the ROI, right? So you want to really determine what they're looking for, and they may have a certain, buy box that they're looking at. Mm-hmm. So once you find that, then you start to, narrow down the searches. You got to know your area. What areas can you do, Airbnbs, right? Lauren has two units listed for rent right now in a area called Ocean Village. Now, it's a unique area because it's one community, right? Gated community, multiple buildings. Each building has their own regulations. Some of them will let you do the Airbnb, some of them won't. So you're going to have to dive in, find out what they're looking for, and then you're going to have to dive into the properties and verify that it will handle what they're looking to do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. He wants a property that he can bring his family down to. He's from Massachusetts. That he can bring his family down to a couple times a year and then get the ROI on it throughout the year. So kind of twofold there.
So
And let's get him qualified as well. So he's definitely, that's an Airbnb because he wants to go there too. So,
Yeah.
is he qualified? How's he paying?
He, depending on what it is, he's either going to do cash. He's a financial investor. I'm a financial advisor. So he's already done all of that on his own.
yeah, I would still want to see the documents. If he's a financial advisor, he's going to know he still has to provide the documents.
Yeah.
I learned really early on. I met this couple. They came into when I had the model home. They came in. I mean, I would have bet you money at when they walked in. We were building a mega house for them, and just the way they walked, the way they talked, and when I finally ran that credit after wasting a lot of time with them, they were so leveraged they couldn't buy our entry level house. So you want to get that document, and a financial advisor knows how to get a proof of funds and all that stuff to you.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing I will tell you, we do get people that say, "Oh, I want to come down, use it for when it's good." Make sure you're asking them though, when is it that you want to come down? Because we have an on season and an off season, and everybody thinks that they're going to come down here and use it for the on season and rent it in the off season. And that's not really a sound investment strategy.
Right.
So, make sure you're having those conversations with them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I got a question. I mean, pretty random. When is the best time to show the buyer agreement? When's the best time to give it to the person and say, okay, ready to work, and here it is?
Buyer agreement, I typically present it at the time I first meet them.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have that. And I suspect that they're going to have something that's going to be written up nicely for us here that will explain it all. If not, I have a template ready to go or almost ready to go that I'm going to submit for approval. Because you want to have, it was a beautiful thing when I was in Maryland because we had this a form. It was called an understanding whom statement. And it clearly said in big, bold letters at the top, this is not a contract. However, this is why it's why we're using it. And it broke down the agency agreement and why it was so important to sign this. So we're going to actually have one for you guys as well. But you want to present this at the time that you first meet them. So let's just go back to this for a second. A second. With the buyer broker, there is a confidentiality that is applied here, right? In addition to everything else, right? So, Mr. Buyer, by signing this, I work for you and we now have a confidential relationship, okay? However, if you don't sign it, technically I'm a sub-agent of the listing agent. This is where everything has gone sideways. So if you tell me, Daniel, you're the buyer and you're like, hey, listen, I really like this house, right? But I know it's listed at $450,000, but I want to get it down to, I want to make the offer at 400, but I can go to 450 if it really comes down to it, right? If I'm a sub-agent of the listing agent and they ask me, I'm required to tell them. Okay. So by doing this and being a representative of that buyer, I now have that confidentiality and it gives me the ability to serve you better. Does that make
Chris,
sense?
Leo Pareja said exactly the same thing at the big agent meeting 2 Fridays ago and then this Friday. Going forward, this decision is going to be made for us. We cannot show property to a buyer unless we have it signed. So right now, I mean, you can incorporate that now if you'd like. Right now, it's like if you meet someone off Zillow and they're like, you know, or Chris gives you a lead from that no one's ever spoken to before, and you're like, sign this agreement, you know, maybe you want to go, you'll take them out and have them sign it. I don't know your opinion, Chris, but going forward with the August 17th date, you cannot take them out without them signing it.
When you explain it on this particular form here, right, and it's a single property buyer broker agreement, this
Mhm.
gives me the opportunity to represent you on this one property, you know, only. In the event that you decide you don't like me, you don't like my haircut, you don't like my tie, you don't like whatever, no worries. You can go work with somebody else. But for this one, you need to have representation, and that's where this comes in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I don't know if Chris went over this, but so now more than ever, you have to ask a buyer, are you working with another realtor? No. Did you sign anything with another realtor? Because if they sign it with you and they signed it with someone else, which is not going to happen as it does now going forward, because the buyer is on the hook for paying the commission. Going forward, it's not really going to happen, but we have to do our due diligence and make every effort without, you know, harassing them and giving them truth serum. We have to make sure that they did not sign this with anyone else. And maybe, Chris, we can go over a polite way to say, because if you do, you're responsible for both, you know, somehow to explain that to them. And if they say, well, I don't want to work with that realtor anymore, you know, as Chris said, fine, just cancel that agreement and then move on. We just have to make sure that they did not sign another agreement.
If they do want to cancel with the other realtor, should we try to get proof that they have a cancellation?
Yes.
You can't get involved in the negotiation of that. You
Yeah,
say to them, yeah, don't ask for the document. You can't see it before, that's private. And just say, when you've canceled it, just do me a favor and send over the cancellation. I'll be more than happy to work with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to have that. You cannot give it as long as they're under contract. You cannot give them advice. You can't say, well, if it was me, I don't know why your agent said to offer 400. I would have offered 380. You know, you can't do any of that stuff. Once they have the cancellation, then you can pick up. And it's going to there's going to be some moments of confusion out there, because there's so many people out there that have never even thought about doing something like this, which it dumbfounds me. In Florida, they use this transaction broker because brokers did not want the liability of transitioning and all that stuff. And then we're not going to get into that because it's going away. But this is so important.
And I keep reiterating, everyone has to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
So
level playing field.
yeah. Sound good? All right. Any thoughts, questions, last minute things you guys want to throw out there?
I was just gonna say something to Jennifer about the investor that you're working with. There is a program called DSCR loans, which is like debt service coverage ratio. You know about that, right?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
heard about those.
You know about Air DNA also?
Yes, was it Air? I
Air
think that's the
DNA
one that I was on. Yeah, I was on
Yeah.
one of that is it. Yeah.
Yeah. That the Air DNA, what it does is, if you find a property for your investors for a Airbnb, it will tell you how much projection cash that you can make off that property, so that way you can communicate that with your investors. And
Okay.
I also do DSCR loans in Florida, just in case, if you need some help, they can come to me. So DSCR loans mean that they don't use their own income, they use the property income to finance the property.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the rent income. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
All right. Everybody good? All right. Well, I hope this stuff helps, and definitely not trying to scare anybody, but we got some good stuff going. So please use these things. Let's get out there. Let's sell some houses and make sure we're at the front of the line when all this stuff changes over. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Talk to you here soon. Guy, I'll set you up with that agent in Brooklyn,
Yes, sir.
and I'll talk with everybody here real soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye,
y'all.
guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.